Greetings, enthusiasts of green software. Our ongoing series of interviews with influential figures in the realm of green software brings us to an exciting discussion today. We're delighted to engage in a conversation with Annie Freeman, a prominent speaker for the Green Software Foundation and a talented software engineer hailing from Xero in New Zealand. Annie's fervor lies in harnessing the power of engineers to address the challenges of climate change through the adoption of environmentally conscious software practices. Annie, thank you very much for being with us today, and we have a couple of questions for you. So the first one... So tell us, what led you to become a green software advocate? Can you also recount your personal journey in this regard, how it all started?
Yeah. So it started when I was a graduate engineer, actually, in my first job. And my company was having an internal technology conference. And me being a budding young graduate engineer, I was like, I want to stand out and do something cool. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to submit something, but I had no idea what I was going to submit for this talk. And the night before the submissions were due, I came across one random article about green coding. And I didn't know much, I didn't know anything about it, but I thought this could be really cool. So I wrote a quick abstract for the talk and put it in, not thinking much of it. As I said, I was a graduate. I wasn't expecting for much to happen, but it got accepted. And then I had to write the talk. And at that time, this was about September 2021, and there really wasn't much going on in this space. And it was quite difficult to write about, actually. And I think I doubted whether this was actually a thing quite a lot. There wasn't any great resources, and it took me a little while to really put together a good talk. And at that time, I just gave like a 10-minute lightning talk. But I'm so glad I did persevere with it, because it got so much great feedback, so much interest in it. And since then, in the past 2 years, there's been so much more research and talks and people taking action in this space. And it's a really exciting place to be a part of. So I just continue to keep talking about it and keep researching and sharing new ideas as they come out. So,
Nice. Cool. And in the past year, have you encountered a specific initiative or project that has significantly advanced the adoption of environmentally conscious software practices?
Yeah, I think the thing that's done the most in this space is the advocacy from the Green Software Foundation. And this was a community group founded in May 2021. By a few different companies, including GitHub and etc., I think. And they've done a lot of work producing resources and sharing ideas, advocating to just raise awareness. And I think at this stage, that's the biggest thing. So many times I just talk to people and they've said, I've never heard of any of this. So at this stage, the project of raising awareness is really important. And the Green Software Foundation has been producing things like a certification, so you can go through a learning modules and get green software certified. And they've got lots of resources on their website about measuring and making changes and things. To give you a more specific technical example, though, one change that I'm really interested in is changing the time or location that you're running your software in to be at a time that is using less fossil fuel sources of energy, to ensuring that you're running in a location or a time of day where electricity being generated at that time comes from renewable sources. And so a really cool example of this is Windows 11. So Microsoft has been updating Windows 11 to make it more sustainable by running software updates at times that will have produced less carbon emissions, because they just run in the background. It doesn't really matter what time they run. So if you can run them at a time that isn't going to produce any carbon emissions, then why not? Which is really cool. So I think that's awesome space to get into as well.
Cool. Thank you. And this certification that you mentioned, it can be found on the website, right, of Green Software Foundation?
Yes. Completely free and yeah, really informative.
Nice. We will check it out. Thank you. And how do you perceive the influence of artificial intelligence on the realm of green software?
So AI is really interesting in that it's doing so much in the space to help with climate change, but at the same time, it's doing a lot to make it worse. AI uses so much data. In fact, AI is expected to consume 3.5% of the total world's electricity by 2030 because it just uses so much data, so much power. And as we continue to increase the amount of the complexity of our machine learning models, the amount of AI we're making and using, that electricity demand's only going to increase. So part of the influence is figuring out how we can make AI more efficient so that it's not constantly increasing our demand for electricity. But at the same time, AI is doing really cool things because, for example, it can help you identify the most efficient ways of running software or identifying the best time of day to run a specific data backup, for example. So it's a really interesting contrast between the two. And I think it's important as we continue to improve AI to keep both sides of that in mind and seeing what we can do.
Thank you. And what insights or forecasts do you have regarding the future of the green software movement in the upcoming year?
Yeah, I would say we're sort of reaching a point where it's becoming easier to measure like the amount of energy that you're using in your software or the amount of carbon emissions it's producing. Different cloud providers like AWS are really improving their measuring tools, and there's also various open source tools. And so I think at this stage, there isn't as much action, but once we sort of reach that point where it's easy to measure and track all these changes, it's going to be so much easier to see to everyone like the impact that your software is having. And then as soon as you see that specific data, it's really easy to be like, hey, like we absolutely should make this change. We absolutely should prioritize changing the way we're making our software. So I think that's a really exciting stage to be in, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens over the next few years.
Yeah, let's see. Okay. Thank you very much for participating in our interview. Your insights are very valuable. Let's keep in touch.
Absolutely.
As we see, this topic is evolving very fast. Maybe next year you will have an inspiration to give another talk.
Yes, there'll be more to talk about, I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Annie. Bye-bye.